Commence primary ignition.
I'm just not the hero type, clearly.
What a piece of junk.
Enterprise, this is the captain.
I got a bad feeling about this.
It's all part of the plan.
Engage.
Welcome back to Podcast 2 for 1. I'm your host, Donovan Thomas, with my co-host,
Daniel Wingfield.
and today we are talking the Xbox Series X. The thumbnail says X and S, but you get the idea. We are talking the Series
No, we're just
X.
talking. We probably shouldn't say X and S because neither of us have an S.
I mean, it doesn't matter. We can speculate.
Yeah,
Whatever.
I'm gonna speculate what it's like to have a truck, even though I only
Anyway,
have a car.
if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button below. Leave us a comment in the section and let us know what your thoughts so far on next gen, or if you have a PS5, or if you don't have either yet, and
Yes.
and just let us know what your thoughts on. We were lucky enough, Daniel, to both get a Series
Yes.
X the morning that Microsoft
pre-ordered.
put them out there, right?
Well, I think I actually got. So at first, I got my Amazon pre-order, which
Yeah.
I was not in, had no faith in, and rightly so, because I don't know if anyone that ordered through Amazon
I don't
has even
either.
gotten theirs yet. But that afternoon, actually, it was like one of those things where Best Buy was supposed to start, but they didn't start until like 1
Yeah.
or 2. Like it never opened till then. And so that's when I got my Best Buy.
Yeah,
in-store pickup.
We both got one that morning. I got one on Best Buy, and then that second
In fact,
round.
you texted me, you're like, they're on Best Buy's open. Best Buy's open. I was like, great. So I got my Best Buy when I canceled my
Yeah,
Amazon.
and I got a second one as well. We're just assholes. I got a second one as well, and I held on to it.
But you gave that to your friend, right?
Well, I texted people and say, "Hey,
yeah.
do you want this?" And end up they all said no, and I waited like a week or two.
That's not that. No,
And then-
no, that's not. Assholes
it's
is
not.
buying a shitload of them
I understand.
and scalping them.
I mean, we're assholes in the fact that no one can get them, but we managed to get
Yeah, but
two. apiece.
theoretically, once you canceled that order was then available for someone else.
I know, but I mean, like people are like, "Oh, they're stupid because they got a Series X and I did not." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, you guys are just complaining.
Maybe you guys are the
If that's you,
assholes.
just re-examine your life.
I also managed to get I bought a PS5 for my buddy because he couldn't get
I
one,
remember you did that.
and I mean he paid me for it. But I mean, like I got it for
You were
him.
the one that got the pre-order.
And then I also had like two more. I had two more. And then
That's more impressive.
on
than
PS5.
Xbox pre-orders.
I know. And then anyway, so
Yeah.
I got lucky. I almost kept my PS5 my second one because I wanted it too, but I ended up not doing it.
Couldn't justify $1,000 within a month. For game consoles.
Unfortunately, yeah, I couldn't
Yeah,
have.
it's
I
difficult.
could have. But
Someday.
I couldn't have to Katie. So
Someday,
I was-
I hope to be in a place where I don't have to justify shit.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one next fall, probably when God of War comes out. But anyway, the Xbox Series X, we are officially in next gen. We've had a few episodes talking about it.
For how long now? Wait, it came out
November 11th,
10th.
So
we are
almost
just
a month.
under a month by 4 days.
By the time this comes out, it will have been a month. But
That's
yes,
true. That's true.
So far, Daniel, what are your impressions on the Series X?
So far, I'll say this: I'm coming from an OG Xbox that
Same.
bought used in 2015 from Game Exchange. So I bought it and it didn't look great. It scratched up to hell. It worked fine, but especially these last few years, it has felt old as shit. Like just menus are laggy as shit, games are laggy as shit, loading screens are long, especially on anything bigger than anything that's a big AAA game, The Witcher, RDR2, anything like that. Wait a good 10 minutes before you actually can play the game. It's like a new world a little bit. Like it's almost like I'm still getting used to it. Like a lot of times I'll still pick up my phone to like instinctually, I'm loading in the game. I'll look at Twitter or something, and then like, oh wait, it's already done. Or there's even I've been playing some of FIFA 21 because on the 4th, so literally like 2 days ago, they released their next gen version. So that the actual next gen version, which was actually like 10 gigs smaller than the old gen version.
Optimized, baby.
Yes. So and they've actually removed so in the old version, like there were some loading screens that they built on. Like so if you start a match, it would put you like in a training session to play while it loads in. And in the old gen, it would take 2 or 3 minutes, so you might play a little bit. And when I was playing the old gen version, it was still there, but like the ability to start the game was immediate. It was like, press start to go to the game. There was no time. You had to wait. It was just immediately there. Now they just removed the entire loading. So that's not even a thing that happens anymore.
Wow.
And so there's like little things like that I'm still getting used to. But I mean, the fidelity is amazing. 60 FPS. I can't go back. I think I will have a hard time with games that aren't 60 FPS, especially games that are open world or rely on visuals or turning, or like, action games, combat games, FPSs especially. Yeah, I can't go back. The loading times, all that stuff, I love it. It's buggy. It's buggy. I will say the experience for me is buggy, and it's one of those things of like, I'm so thankful that I was able to purchase one on day one, because I've never been able to be a part of a console launch before, and that's something I've always wanted to be a part of. Those those
Right.
first impressions, those the zeitgeist of getting into the new generation, the excitement of that. But I definitely do see the benefit of waiting 6 months to a year to buying one of these, because a lot of the features are buggy. I've had some console crashes. I've had like even
Really?
over the weekend. I had where and does yours flash green sometimes? Like just a flash of green screen all of a sudden? Like when it's like turning off or like mine.
I don't. Do you turn yours off your Xbox, or you just let it go to like sleep mode?
Well, I don't have it. I have it in the mode where when you say turn off, it's like sleeping.
Right.
So it's like quick start. You can do quick start or the other version where it's like power saving.
I don't
mode.
think I ever like actually turn it off. I think I just
the default is quick start.
I think I just like go to my TV and then it just shuts off like within an hour, which I probably should start turning it off.
Well, it will save your controller battery at least.
That's true. That explains a lot, actually.
You're just sitting there with your
I've got
your
unlimited batteries
controller times off before the console will.
You're right.
But it's still probably like 10 minutes.
No, I think I've never been one. First of all, the menu is crisp.
Yeah.
Moving across the menu when you're loading to things is crisp. When you have a 4K TV like we do,
Yeah.
just bought a new TV,
Which we don't have, unfortunately, 120 FPS. We both have a 4K 60
Both of us,
FPS,
yeah.
60 hertz refresh rate.
Yeah.
I'm using FPS.
I know.
It's hard for me not to.
So yeah, we don't have the 120, but we have the 60.
Yes.
And I remember my first day on launch was just downloading games. That was my first day, and sitting there just watching
And
the pretty
trying.
menu.
I just was like, oh, I'm going to try this for a little bit. Okay, I'm going to go try this.
Yeah.
I'm going to try this.
Yeah,
Like, games I haven't booted up in a long time.
Yeah.
Just to see it.
Since I always had like the lower end Xbox One, basically that fall they come out, I got one. It was, my disk space was like 250 gigs, so I could only have like 3 or 4.
That was like the original lowest. I think mine was 500.
I had the Kinect and I had the original low, yeah. So it was 3 or 4 games at a time. So I immediately had a big jump in terms of space.
Sure, 800 gigs. Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
and I have you had any issues with space? Like, do you feel like you're having to trade games out for other ones you want?
That first couple of days though, I had all the way down to I had probably 2 gigabytes left.
But you probably had a shit ton of
But
games.
that was because I was sitting there just downloading everything, and I was putting Quick Resume through its paces. I was.
but I bet you had probably 10, 12 games.
Well, I
downloaded.
still have like 12 games. There's still 4 I haven't even opened yet. You know what I'm saying? And
it's a good. 12 games on your download at a time.
yeah, and these
That's
are like
plenty.
And these are big games like Black Ops Cold War, The Witcher,
Right,
Resident
yeah,
Evil
those are-
6, Resident Evil.
Especially Black Ops Cold War. There's like 130.
Yeah, Master Chief Collection is 100. Gears 5 is 100.
Yep.
So that's 300 of the 100. And I've had
Just 3 games.
That's just 3 games. And then there's, and those are big games. I mean, Master Chief Collection is like 6 actual games.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
exactly.
So
Exactly.
I've had plenty of space for what I've actually been playing with.
Yes.
But the thing, I've never been like a frame rate person. I've never been like, oh, I need 60 frames per second. I've never even experienced it really. And then actually experienced, I'm like, oh, wow. And I've never had the option to change.
Right. Performance or
Fidelity.
fidelity.
Fidelity and Gears, you can do that. And of course, you can run 4K 60 frames per second on Gears, and it looks
Performance is 4K 60.
yeah.
I think visuals is it's better 4K maybe. I think how at least with Valhalla, which I'll give some more thoughts on Valhalla as it being kind of a true-ish next gen game. At least they had a next gen version. So how I understand it is performance mode, it's going to have a variable fidelity. So it's targeting 4K. It's really UHD, guys. It's 3800 by something. It's not true 4K. Just FYI. Most 4K TVs are not true 4K. They're fucking with you. Especially
TED Talk.
on the goddamn refresh rate shit. They'll be like 120 FPS refresh motion technology, which basically means motion blur to make everything look like shit.
It does.
Anyway, so it has a variable rate. So it may dip. It may dip down to 2K at times as the processor needs, but the frame rate is locked. It's
Yeah.
never going to go below 60. And then the other one's just opposite.
Yeah.
It's going to be locked at UHD 4K, but the frame rate could dip into the 30s.
Yeah. Well, my big two examples were, and these are older games, and I've been out of gaming for a while, and so the last 6 months I've been just going through all these games I wanted to play. And now that I have a Series X, I'm like, oh man, I can play this, and the load times are better and everything else. So Jedi Fallen Order, which is not too old, but there's
It had some load times.
but there's it does,
Especially when you died.
But now it's not that bad, and on that front. But also, what's cool is you can change the performance mode to, performance or graphics, and so. I'm always like, man, I want graphics. I don't care about frame rate. But I flipped it over to frame rate, and then immediately I was like, oh my God, this feels
different.
It feels so different. And I was like, no, I want the graphics because I'm a big graphics whore. So I went back and I was like, I started to move the camera and I went, oh my God, I cannot play this game like this.
I know.
After just 2 seconds of the other one, I can't play this game like this
Well,
anymore.
it literally decreases the eye strain.
Oh yeah, well,
Because
it's just like
there's just so much more blur.
it feels
and
like it's like
choppiness.
it does feel like it's, and I never noticed that before.
Exactly. You
And
don't
then
notice it.
I started Rise of Tomb Raider last week or this week or whatever,
right.
and same thing. It has the option because it's also like a game that was being enhanced for the time they did this Xbox
Well, it was
X
probably around
thing.
the Series X stuff.
Yeah, or the X stuff. Yeah,
Because a lot of games ran 4K 60 on the
they
X.
did. I didn't really
Series
realize
X.
all that.
Or the
X, just
One
the
X.
the One X. Yeah, and so that's Microsoft
and PS4 Pro, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah. And so you can do the same thing, and you can actually see it in real time, like the foliage decrease when you're changing like the
or
amount.
the pop. What I noticed more is the pop in.
Yeah,
So like at the do things gradually come in, or do they like you're at a distance and then suddenly it just pops?
Yeah.
Now that artifact is there.
Yeah.
I noticed it a lot less on fidelity mode, I think.
Right.
Yeah. When it's focusing on the aspect or the resolution.
and on Tomb Raider, you can sit there and you can see the foliage change when you're just sitting there flipping the switch. But then, of course, when you're playing it, if it's 4K visuals, it looks pretty. It looks
when you
really great.
move-
It moves so sluggish. And
Especially
I never
if you
noticed
move
it.
quickly. And
Yeah.
that's why I said for action games, when you're like an Assassin's Creed where you're having like killing a bad guy here, now you got to whip around and kill a bad guy on the other side, and you got to do
It's
it like
really
a-
just the camera thing.
It-
That's
but
what
it-
feels so
and it's
different.
And it is one of those things that like I think we got used to it because we just got used to not really knowing what was happening when we were in motion, and then just
Exactly.
relying on the still visual. When we stopped moving the camera, which you don't have to do as much because it's so fluid.
yeah, it's
so fun.
it's wild how
It is.
different it is.
It is, and I'll say the HDR gaming too. That stuff's awesome.
Oh yeah,
Like I can tell a big difference between an HDR game and a non-HDR game, and to me the biggest difference is like the stops of what they call it? Like I'm thinking of it through a camera. The like how what do they call it? Something stops of
you're talking about f stops.
dynamic range. Dynamic range is
Oh.
the dynamic range. So like the amount of small increments there are between the darkest thing and the brightest thing.
Oh, yeah.
It like triples. Like and to a point where sometimes it's a little bit like if you're in shadow, it's like almost a little too shadow. Like I'm like, this is almost kind of hard to see in a realistic way. That's almost too realistic. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
but when it hits, when you like get a sunrise, like in Valhalla, the scenery is gorgeous. The world is beautiful in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but you get that sunrise moment. I've taken quite a few screenshots where it's just God damn, and it's got that volumetric lighting where it's bouncing through trees, it's bouncing through clouds, through like different, and like you can literally see the sun poking between clouds and the God rays coming out of it in a way it would in real life, and it's like holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how low fidelity my gaming was before because
It's
and
a
that's-
huge difference.
It is huge, and a big thing about the 8th generation. We're on the 9th generation, or what we decided to call the 9th generation of consoles, is a lot of people went to PC during the 8th generation because when those consoles were made, the processing chip, the amount of RAM, the speed of the hard drives was bad then. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it was you could have bought better versions of all of that if you were building your own PC. And because of that, you saw it. I mean, PC Master Race became a thing, really a thing since like 2013.
You sons of
since
bitches.
PS4 and Xbox One came out because they were the last gen, it was just HD but better.
Right.
Like that's what changed ish. But you know, it was a 5400 RPM hard drive. It's so slow. You know what I mean? Like that can do like 100 megs per second.
Right.
Or like that's horrible.
Right.
Or it would struggle to get up to that. There's so many things that made it archaic day one you bought it. You could already buy at the same price all the parts that were better for a PC. It's not true this gen. Like this gen, people are saying, holy shit, you can do that with a $400 to $500 box. That would take you $900,000 to build your PC that way, and you're still
900,000. You heard it here
and you're
first.
still picking the budget items
Yeah.
to build it at that price.
No, I mean it's
It's
a nice
it feels like,
compromise.
and that's how I look at it now. I'm like, okay, I spent $500 on a box, but this is going to be relevant for the next 7 years plus.
Well, I mean, also you start getting to the nitty gritty. I think from what I've heard and what I've even seen on like videos and stuff, the difference between 30 and 60 is much bigger than 60 to 120.
Oh yeah, well, and I think
And there's a point where
I think there's like it's the early 200s of refresh rate that is literally biologically impossible.
that's what I'm saying. We're fixing it to a point where
Yeah.
either we get augmented as a race to
Yeah.
start telling the difference,
Right.
which won't happen for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're almost capped.
It's honestly way bigger than like 1080 to 4K.
Yeah.
If you especially with super resolution and like super scaling, you can make a 1080p image look fucking. I mean, the Witcher 3 and RDR 2 looked great upscaled to 4K on my TV.
Yeah.
I did not think they looked bad at all. 4K looks way better, but the jump from 30 to 60 feels like a constant thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's affecting every second of gameplay and experience that just feels so much more substantial, I guess. Like I definitely noticed the 4K on those like gorgeous landscape shots. But if I'm just fighting, I mean, everything's moving so fast anyway, I don't have time to pixel peek.
But it is nice though when you sit there for a second and you're like, whoa. Like it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there was moments in Black Ops Cold War that I was sitting there, I was like, Matt, because maybe we were playing it together, and I was like, it looked incredible. It was one of the best looking games I've ever seen.
Yeah, I believe that.
And it was wild.
And that's, I think, it's one of those things where I even think this generation will not be marked by ever increasing visuals. I don't think, because I play Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is, by the way, one of the buggiest games I have ever experienced.
Right.
I know it's like quick resume does not work on it. It was funny because I was talking to you about that in person. Like, yeah, quick resume fucking won't. Or maybe that was on a podcast.
When we talked in
Yeah,
person.
it was like my quick resume won't work on Valhalla. And literally the next day I was listening to Kind of Funny Games Daily. Shout out, guys. They're fans of us. And it was one of the news stories. It was like, quick resume not working on Valhalla. And I was like, yep, god damn it. I'm one of those. So it's buggy as hell. The reliability, it's crashed. It's crashed my Xbox a couple times.
Yeah.
Like one time where it was like it wouldn't turn back on. I had to unplug it for a few seconds to make it turn back on. I was a little scared.
I've only had one time where I was quick resuming like a motherfucker through like multiple games, and the whole
You asked
thing
for that one,
and the whole
probably.
thing froze up. Like
Yeah,
the whole,
yeah.
and I had to turn off the Xbox.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I was like, this is like a couple days ago. So I was
Right.
just messing
Right.
around,
No, right.
and it fucked up. on me.
But yeah, no, I agree.
Which real quick, the quick resume. I've never been a person like, oh, I'm going to play 4 different games at once. Normally I'm like, I got to play one game. I'm going to finish it, move on to the next one.
Right.
Right now, over the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I guess a month, I've probably beaten honestly like 7 or 8 games.
just because it's so easy.
It's so easy, and and I still have right now. I'm in the middle of 3.
Yeah, no,
3
I mean,
different games.
I am one of those people that have frequently had the problem of starting a game and then changing my mind during the long ass loading screens that I don't really want to play this. And even like The Witcher 3, that might be a game I might actually beat now.
I'm fixing
Maybe,
to go back through
because it's
or actually
the
start
loading
it.
times were so like it literally took probably a literal 2 to 3 minutes of loading from the main screen to loading into the game.
Yeah.
It's a little shorter once you're like fast traveling, but not a lot shorter at all. I mean, like it's so long that they literally built out like these almost like comic storyboard things that like catch you up on the plot of what's happened to where you're last saved, which is really cool. But those were built because the loading screens were so goddamn long, and
Yeah.
they couldn't have you just sitting watching a card.
Now correct me. The Series X optimized version hasn't come out yet, right? Aren't they doing
Oh, no.
a next gen optimized version next year? Or they
For
announced
Witcher
it.
3?
They announced
I would
it.
assume at some point.
They announced it, I believe.
I would assume so. I mean, but I think there may have been, though, One X PS4 Pro optimized version.
I think there is, but
So you're still going to get probably 4K and maybe even 60 FPS.
really.
Yeah.
But then they also, correct me if I'm wrong, the Cyberpunk, when it drops very soon, it will not be the Series X optimized
Oh, no,
version.
that comes out next year, but it will still be 4K 60. They
Well,
confirmed
what's the optimized? I guess it's ray tracing.
better textures, ray tracing. I don't know. They'll figure out more shit to do. But that actually gets me back to my point of
Probably loading.
I look at Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and the loading should be actually the loading might get worse with the new version.
I think so.
Yeah, because it's bigger textures, more stuff to load in versus less.
Sure.
bigger things.
I guess I'm
less
thinking that
complicated things.
I guess it's not built for the Series X. So I would, correct me if I'm wrong,
Right.
not to cut you off, but I assume in 3 years from now, the games will be made for these consoles. They'll be taking better advantage of the hardware, and we should
100%.
get less load times, right? If they're built for the console.
Oh, yeah.
Or
Well,
is it a case of we have
Yeah,
higher
well, no, I wouldn't
textures?
say less load times. I
Well-
think there's a still potential that load times get longer as the generation gets longer.
They're just comparable.
They're should be more ambitious.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like we're still stuck in load time. You just kind of think
Eventually, there will be games that have bad load times still this generation.
there has to be.
There
But,
will be, and it will probably be games that are just fucking enormous.
yeah.
You know, Cyberpunk could be one of those on its next gen version. I don't think it will because even they're saying the new version will be built for the Series X. From the bottom up, that game was built for last gen.
Yeah.
Intended. I mean, it was
It's a
supposed to
old.
come out last year. So obviously they intended for all those things to work on last gen.
Yeah.
So I don't think that will be an issue because it was built for less powerful machines and they're kind of up-resing it
Yeah.
to take advantage versus building it for this really powerful machine from the ground up. Anyway, back to what I was saying about fidelity. When I look at the visuals of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, when I play fucking Fallout 4 from 2015, I load that up and they did release a 1X optimized, so it's 4K 60, and it's like, holy shit. Do visuals need to be better? Like, am I
Yes.
going to get anything else out of like,
Yes.
like what? But what do you like? I look at the landscape on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I'm like, I don't see anything to improve.
More photorealism.
No, but you don't. I mean, you don't want to get too uncanny valley with it.
Yeah, I do. I
No,
do.
you don't.
I'm curious.
Unless it's going to be fucking the VR like in Star Trek, the holograph room.
Holodeck.
Yes, goddamn it.
I don't even watch Star Trek.
I know. I know.
Anyway,
I'm
I'm curious. I want to see it.
I look at that, and generationally, I feel like we're still going to see improvements, but it's not going to be like, oh my God, the beginning of the generation looked like this and the end looked like that in terms of quality of the image. Now, complexity, like thinking like a GTA 5, like population density. Like I could see by the end of the generation, it still looks 4K beautiful, like as good as some games did at the end of last gen, like on the pro versions. But there's so much more going on at all times. You know, you have a GTA like city that every character has a routine and you could follow them
Yeah.
through their whole day, going to work, going to the grocery store, like
I
these
still haven't
level of
played it.
systems
Yeah.
that could be happening in these. And I mean, giant open world games are the thing. It's either a looter shooter FPS or it's a giant open world game. Those are the games that are kind of like mainstream video games right now, right? So we're going to get more and more and more open world games. We're going to get, assumingly, a GTA 6 this gen. I don't know. It seems like that may be too grand, but we're going to get Bethesda's Starfield, which will, I'm assuming, have a lot of NPCs and shit like that. We're going to get a new...
That'll be first person, right? You assume
Yeah, I mean, Bethesda games you can always toggle.
that don't count.
It's made for first person.
okay.
But Elder Scrolls 6, whenever that comes out, well, I mean, that game, I think we forget how much of a moment Skyrim was. I mean, I remember people on Facebook that I didn't know played games like, I just killed my first dragon, #Skyrim, like, holy shit, they're playing Skyrim?
Yeah.
Like, because when I was growing
My
up,
brother-
this was not a cool game. Like, nerds were into this shit,
Yeah.
not cool people.
My brother's put in. I heard him say the number a couple of days ago, and it was like I could be paraphrasing, like 700 hours in this.
I mean, I don't know.
I was like, holy shit,
I put in a shit ton. I put in on a couple different consoles.
that's wild.
but
That's some time.
I mean, Skyrim, I mean, it's a joke how many consoles and devices they've put that game on, right?
Yeah,
Like
I mean, it's
they
just
put it on. They literally put it on the Amazon Echo as a
Really?
voice to speech text adventure. But
What?
it literally is the beginning of the game. It's like you're riding in a wagon through
That's wild.
It's yes, I know.
I didn't know that.
And then they put it on it was a joke commercial about them putting it on a smart fridge.
But people like Oblivion more than Skyrim, right? Am I wrong in saying that?
The hardcore fans would say that Oblivion was more of a rich game with good RPG elements, and that Skyrim's a lot more mainstream and kind of like it's kind of cheaper, but it feels like it's trying to be more accessible. But Skyrim is the one that like broke. Like Skyrim is the one where it became Bethesda games became a ubiquitous thing of like, oh yeah,
11,
those are
11,
games.
11. That's when it came out.
I know, yeah, but that changed how people felt about Bethesda games.
God, that was 9 years ago.
That game came out, and then Fallout 4 came out 4 years later, and it was like that. You don't get the hype you had at Fallout 4 without Skyrim being what it was.
Right. Fallout 3 was huge. It was huge.
It was huge, but it wasn't Skyrim.
Yeah.
Skyrim was
people like
something that
Fallout
people
3 more than
didn't
Fallout
know
4,
about
right?
video games played.
People like Fallout 3 more than Fallout 4, correct? I don't know. I don't play any
It's
of these
split.
games.
I mean, the hardcore fan base would. Sorry about that. I'm not sure where I was, but I'll figure it out in the editing room, and figure out how to get back to
My
where I
question
am now.
was people like Fallout 3 over Fallout 4. I don't know because I never played the games.
Yeah, well, we're talking about Bethesda games and Skyrim and Oblivion. Yeah, to answer that question, I think the majority of hardcore Fallout fans would say New Vegas is the best.
Oh, yeah. People like that. a
That's
lot.
kind of the more cliche answer, but Fallout 4 is usually the least liked because it feels like Fallout 4 was a continuation of what they did in Skyrim, was trying to make it more and more accessible, thus reducing the depth. So it felt like kind of mile wide, inch deep.
Gotcha.
You know, where Oblivion felt like mile wide, mile deep.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like in a Morrowind before that, and even Fallout 3 in New Vegas. All that to say is, this generation will have some giant fucking open world games.
Right.
We know about them already and can assume even more. So I'm excited to see what that looks like, because the visuals, yes, they're great, and it does impact your experience, but not as much as gameplay.
Yeah.
Not as much as the intricacy of systems you can play with in a video game. I love managing systems in a video game. Like I loved in Assassin's Creed Black Flag how you could build up your own fleet and send them on missions, and they bring gold for you, and you could capture ships and add it to your fleet. Like, you know, like that kind of shit, building up from nothing to building up like an army or a big city or something. I love that.
Can you
shit.
send people off and then go track them down and see what they're doing? Or
No, because you like send them to parts of the map you don't like. You
Oh,
can like
gotcha.
send them to fucking
now
Jamaica.
that would be cool if you could send people off and they go do their own thing and then you're like, you know what, we'll check on them. And you actually go and they're actually looting a town and you actually start helping them relieve them.
Right.
That's next gen right
Yeah,
there.
that would be
Anyway,
Yeah.
one thing also, this is a small little caveat.
Sure.
I've never played with headphones before, and I just got my Turtle Beach, my little kind of cheap $40 one.
Makes a difference, dude.
Dude, it
It's
makes
so
a huge
immersive.
difference. It's like playing Resident Evil 7. It's creepy. It's even more creepy as fuck. I've been playing Rise of the Tomb Raider right now, and it's like sitting there listening to the cave and the droplets, and I'm like, whoa! And like,
It's immersive, especially you turn the lights off.
yeah, it's another thing another element that I never really played with before until next gen.
I
So
know.
I'm
Well,
getting a huge next gen.
It's
like,
something that I feel like you
experience.
don't realize how awesome it is till you do it, and then you're like, I can never go back.
Yeah,
Now I have a decent sound bar with like a subwoofer in the back of the room, so I kind of like playing with soundbar on sometimes. But for really immersive games, like Red Dead Redemption 2 has maybe the best sound design of any game ever. Like if you hear it, it's somewhere around you. You can go find it.
Mm-hmm.
If you hear that bird chirp, it's somewhere in the trees around you. If you hear that animal, it's there around you. And it's just this
wild.
constantly hearing all these crazy, just like it's the most realistic sound design I've ever heard in a game ever. And that's one that like you put the headphones on and it's like, you're a goddamn cowboy, man.
yeah.
That you're in the goddamn Wild West. That's all you're in. Yeah.
We're running out of time, but let's real quick.
8 minutes.
Let's
on
talk.
the
Let's
card
let's
left.
talk about the actual box itself and the controller.
Sure.
The presentation, of course, you can go online and find tons of unboxings and everything else.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's a cool presentation. It feels like you're getting a nice piece of expensive
Feels
tech.
premium.
Feels premium. When the box itself, it doesn't feel or look as huge as like some people talk about. It's not as big as the PS5. I've seen that motherfucker.
No.
It's not. And even the PS5 doesn't look and feel as big as it does online.
My thing with the PS5 is it looks wide.
It is.
It's wide. That's my. I would much prefer a thick, smaller, not wide and thin.
But the box looks sleek. It's an actual box.
Sure.
Mine's vertical. And I love the green texture.
Yeah, it looks
that's
great.
a really cool feature.
And I didn't realize necessarily what they were doing there, but it's just like they've painted
the
inside of the
vent.
of the holes. Yeah, it was smart.
And so it's like this.
It gives kind of an optical illusion.
Yeah,
effect.
so it moves. It's a really cool thing. The controller itself.
Great.
I've heard some people talk about how it makes their hands cramp up because it's slightly smaller. It is slightly smaller than the last one. It is barely. It's barely smaller. And I personally love the 360 controller better than the Xbox One because it's a smaller controller. I have smaller hands actually.
Okay.
Then I like for my size as a human, I have small hands, and so the Xbox Series X controller, I love it.
Sure.
It's more. It's closer to the 360 size. I say closer. It's just smaller.
Sure.
And it has these textured matte grips on the triggers.
I love that.
On the thing, so it makes you feel like you're holding. Like it won't slip out of your hand.
It's a bit heavier too, and the clicking of the buttons feels so especially like the D-pad.
Yeah.
Like each way, it feels like a click.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like a mashing, like a rubbery thing.
Yeah.
It feels like click, 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 and it feels.
The only downside
really
is that it
satisfying.
gets like it's actually the sound effect of the click is like if I'm really clicking a lot, it's like it's like a lot
I
of
gotta have
clicking.
those headphones on, baby.
That's true. I feel bad for Katie. You know what I'm saying? She's like, oh my god.
I rarely use the D-pad.
Yeah,
personally.
yeah.
But even just the feeling of the sticks, they feel a bit. I feel like they feel a bit more well made.
Yeah.
Because that was always a lot of that to me. That was always what would deteriorate first.
Yeah.
In a controller was like either the rubbery parts around the analog sticks or the analog sticks start sticking or drifting. That's fairly common with most controllers, especially if you wear them out pretty good.
The game art.
Yeah. Well, especially like for me when I'm playing like Rocket League, so I'm like mashing it this way and I'm like jamming buttons down because I'm like, in the moment.
I'm so looking forward to the Elite 3. They've already kind of come out and talked about how they want to replicate the DualSense in a way, which I've played with the DualSense.
Yeah, no, they've said we love it. We're going to learn from it.
It's pretty wild.
I'm all into it. I'm like, fuck yeah, let's get one.
Yeah, I would love
and
it.
it's funny because it's like PlayStation has said, yeah, we're going to have our own
Game Pass.
answer to Game Pass, and Xbox is saying, yeah, we're going to have our own answer to the DualSense. So it's just both of them learning from each other
and in a great way for us.
Choosing the best versions of the either one.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, this is great for me because now I'll have the Microsoft version of it and I don't have to buy a PS4 or PS5 to get the DualSense.
Yeah, I know it's great. I think the thing we can agree on the most is that the only thing that makes the Series X experience truly next gen is just more next gen games.
Yeah, I mean, if this had launched with Halo Infinite, it would have been huge.
It would have been the console launched in my
It would
opinion.
have been the
that I've ever
console to get.
experienced.
It would have been the console to get,
Yeah.
probably. And just, especially with at least with what they were selling us Halo Infinite was going to be.
Yeah.
The scope of it. Like, if it is what they said it was,
Yeah.
it would have been perfect.
It's on the back of the box,
Yeah, it's kind of sad because it's like,
Yeah.
that stings.
You can still
that
get your-
reminds me that this was supposed to have Halo in the
You can still buy Doritos and get your points. But anyway, I think we both agree, if you guys haven't figured out already, you need to get a Series X if you're still in the old gen, if you want a new Xbox.
If you're someone that plays video games regularly, you will see and you don't, I'll say this, and you don't have an Xbox One X or a PS4 Pro, I think you're going to see a significant jump in your quality of life playing games. And if you're like me and you play games enough as your kind of, your release, that was worth it to me to be at the beginning of the next gen. If you're someone that doesn't play as often, or if you're someone that has the good versions of Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, you're going to see less of a jump just in terms of quality, and you might benefit from waiting 6 months till all these bugs get worked out.
Yeah, I agree.
Quick Resume is working on every game as advertised.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anyway, Daniel, how can our listeners write into us?
Write into us at bit.ly/2for1mail. Let us know what you think if you've got a next-gen console. If you have a PS5 and you want to be a dumbass console warrior, you can do that, and we will shame you. But yeah, let us know if you like your Xbox Series X or if you like your PS5, if you wish you had waited, if you wish you had gotten the discless versions, maybe you got those or you don't. Either way, we both got our, obviously, Series X's disc versions. I would love to hear from someone that has a Series S, because I would love to hear about what that is like. Write into us, bit.ly/2for1mail. Let us know.
And of course, if you haven't already, go to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, like the video so people can find it. And if you don't want to hit our bit.ly, leave us a comment in the section below. Daniel, we did it.
We did it.
Our Series X's are happening.
Yeah.
Now we've seen PS5s.
Next gen is here.
Of course, you may not ever get a PS5.
I'll get one.
I'll get one.
If someone wants to give me one.
God of War Ragnarok, baby. Anyway, my name is Donovan Thompson,
I'm Daniel Wingfield.
and we have spoken.